I don't want no oil spoiling my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes! Good morning, Toledo, and good afternoon, Columbus, and hello to those of you listening on the internet, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Joe DeMare, and I'm here with my incredible co-host,
Rebecca Wood.
Yes, together, Rebecca and I are going to spend the next hour talking about ecology and the environment. We're going to talk about it in the ways that affects you and your wealth and your health and your happiness, the wealth and health and happiness of your friends and your families and your gardens and your pets and all the critters and everything around you, because, like you're not, here we are on this incredible planet called Earth. And so we got another good show lined up for you today. We're going to just chat for a few minutes here about whatever you'd like, and you can call in at any time at 877-909-1007. That's 877-909-1007. Or you can send a text. If you're not comfortable putting your voice on the air, you can send a text to 419-973-5841. That's 419-973-5841. I've got my text receptor right here propped up in front of me. He's ready to take a text. And then after our little bit of chatting here, about 10:15, we have a guest calling in. The appropriately named Tim Porter is going to be talking to us about trains. And we have an event coming up here in Toledo that called Train Day that I wanted to get the information out that that's happening. And then Rebecca. Then we'll hear from our advertisers and patrons at the bottom of the hour.
Yes.
And then we'll hear from Rebecca. And Rebecca, what will you be talking to us about today?
I will be doing a short feature called Violets. Why so many?
Violets. All right. Sounds good. And after Rebecca's done, we're going to talk about some big ecological and environmental news stories that are happening right now. And again, as I say, hopefully at some point we'll hear from you at 877-909-1007. And there's just two things I wanted to talk about before our guest joins us. One is kind of nice, and the other's not quite so nice, but the nice one is ties right in with what Rebecca's going to be talking about, and that is violets. I have a Facebook page, my own personal Facebook page, and you can go search for it on just search for Joe DeMare if you want to find it. And I had a little dilemma about a week ago. I was looking at my lawn. Got the lawnmower out. I was ready to get started. And then I realized that my lawn is just covered in violets this year. It's just like a purple carpet in places. And I really didn't want to mow my lawn. So instead, I took a picture of it and posted it on Facebook and said, I don't want to, I hate mowing my lawn when it looks this nice with the violets. And over 100 people so far have chimed in and said, don't mow your lawn. And I discovered that there's this whole new thing called No Mow May, which is essentially just everyone agrees not to mow their lawn in the month of May. And the idea is that this is actually a critical time for pollinators, for like bees and wasps and flies and things that go around pollinating the flowers. And if you don't mow in May, you help them recover from the winter. And and it's gone so far as the city of Ann Arbor, which is kind of almost on the border of our signal. We might sometimes reach Ann Arbor on a good day. But Ann Arbor actually this past year passed a city ordinance saying, not only are they not going to penalize people who let their lawns grow, but encouraging everybody in the city of Ann Arbor to not mow until June 1st. And just kind of wanted to run that past you folks. What do you think? Is that a good idea, or is that like excessive shagginess? Should we not participate in No Mow May? So what do you think of that idea? I kind of like it for a couple reasons. One, of course, is the violets, and the two, I literally just hate mowing my lawn. I've hated it ever since I was a kid. And, I remember I'd have to, like I was 10, I had to mow the lawn. And I swore to myself that when I got a house, when I grew up, I would never mow my lawn. And, well, of course, a couple citations later from, and I do mow my lawn to keep up with the neighbors is what I tell myself. But increasingly, there's more and more people saying we shouldn't be mowing at all, and we should do things like just cover the lawn in wildflowers and do like landscaping that puts native plants in there instead of grass. Yeah, just wondered what people thought about that. And then one other thing I wanted to talk about was on Netflix. Now they've got this new mini-series about 3 Mile Island, and I finally went and binge watched it last night. I was up till, 2 in the morning or so. And it was very, very interesting. It was an intense movie. But it also had some drawbacks in it. I mean, it gave a lot of the accurate information about what happened then. But I'm afraid it kind of, I've talked before about my personal definition of really sophisticated propaganda. And that is that kind of really sophisticated propaganda has about a third truth, things that are absolutely true, a third half-truths, things that are kind of true, and then that 1/3 that's just like complete BS. That's what all that other stuff is there to make the BS sound plausible. And this show did that in an interesting way, in that they had like NRC spokesman and the guys who were making the really horrible decisions that like not to evacuate when the worst of the radiation was being released. And so what they did was they had those guys up there, and they're still spouting the same stuff, the same falsehoods they were spouting 40 years ago. And then they would just juxtapose that with the stuff that shows, that they were lying, things were much worse than they said, and they should have evacuated. But they did it without any kind of, they didn't come down on either side, really. All they did was present, okay, this guy says that guy says this, and left it up to the audience to decide. And, I guess there's an argument to be made for presenting information that way. But I think that if you're like a journalist, and there's two conflicting points of view, you have a little more responsibility than just putting out the two conflicting points of view. Because anybody seeing the show, anybody reading your piece is going to want to know, well, which one is right? And I think you have a little bit of responsibility. You have to come down on a side, or you have to say, it's impossible to tell which one is right. But in this case, it's extremely easy to tell because we have the epidemiological data. We know that people who were in the plume of gases that came off 3 Mile Island have got higher rates of cancer, more than double. And the other thing is that they presented this one fella who was on there, and he Oh, hold on just a second. Our guest is calling in here.
Well, I must have got wrong number because it said it's not valid. So
8779. Yeah, Tim. Hi. We're on the air right now because I I have to take your call on the air. So
okay.
You tried to call 877-909-1007.
Yep, and it says it doesn't work.
It says it doesn't work. All right. Well, we try it again. We've got our tech. He's poised over the phone right now.
Okay.
But if it doesn't work, call this number back again, and we'll just do it this way because I can just put you on the air using my mic as we're doing right now. So
okay, 877-909-1007.
That's correct. So
okay, I'll try it again.
All right, thanks, Tim. Bye. So my point about the show about 3 Mile Island was that they spent the whole series sort of building up the credibility of this one whistleblower who was involved in the cleanup of the thing. He wasn't involved in the actual accident. And he had this big thing about a crane that he said they shouldn't use because it was exposed to radiation and needed parts replaced. And it was unsafe to lift the lid of the reactor. All that is true. And, he became a whistleblower. He went public. He got fired. He did all the things that, happen to whistleblowers in the nuclear industry. Well, apart from getting, physically harassed, his house was broken into and files were stolen from him and things of that nature. But so they spent the whole series, the whole miniseries, building him up. And then at the very end, they asked him, so what's your opinion of nuclear energy now? And he said, I think we should still have it. But he did put the caveat in there. He said that it shouldn't be privately owned. He said as long as nuclear power plants are run by corporations that want to make a profit, they're always going to cut corners and there's always going to be safety issues. And so he said we should have nukes, but I guess he just wants them government run. So the problem with that is that, his training was in the Navy, and that's where he learned nuclear power. And so he basically thought that the nuclear power people that the Navy was doing nukes right. And that is actually wrong because Admiral Rickover, the fella that he kind of worshipped as someone who's created the nuclear Navy, and part of the show was that they showed that these nuclear submarines that Rickover designed, they were like, they said in there that he designed them so that they're absolutely safe and no danger to the people running them, even though they're in they're essentially locked in a tin can with a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that could be.
Yeah.
Completely safe.
And in fact, it isn't. In fact, last year, the federal government finally released some information. They released a comparative study where they looked at sailors who served in nuclear submarines, and they compared them to sailors who served in other places who weren't exposed to radiation. And it turns out that the sailors who were in nuclear submarines have 9 times the cancer rate. Nine times the cancer rate. That
heck of a coincidence.
Yeah, that sailors who didn't. And so, of course, these are extremely similar groups. Both sailors, they went through the same basic training. They say they're out on the ocean. And this, and so he's wrong. I mean, that's the 1/3 of the information that's false is no, even if the government runs it, it's still not safe. And so, he was wrong about that, but that's part of the whole, he was right about a lot of things. He was half right about some things, but he was wrong about the idea that anybody can do nuclear power safely. So, but overall, a very valuable miniseries. I definitely recommend you spend the time to watch it. The only other criticism I have of it is that they present, A, they don't come down on any side, but B, they do present the pro-nuclear people as being rational and motivated by logic, and and they present the people who are opposed to nukes as being all emotional, and it's all about how they feel and how scared they were, which is a nuclear industry falsehood that people oppose nuclear power because they're afraid of it. We oppose nuclear power because it's insane to create radioactive waste that's going to last thousands of years in order to have electricity for about, for just a second.
Well, I am afraid of it.
Okay.
But
all right.
Even supposing I were sort of magically radiation proof because I was a superhero, I still would not like that to happen to other people either.
Right. So, all right. So, but it's still a very valuable show, and definitely watch it if you've got Netflix, and might even want to consider reconnecting with Netflix if you've canceled it. So, all right. So now, I think, Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I can hardly hear you. Okay. Try that.
All right. There we go. So, thanks for calling, Tim. Would you mind telling us who you're with and who you are?
Okay. My name is Tim Porter. I'm the board chairman of Northwest Ohio Passenger Rail Association and the treasurer of National Train Day Toledo.
Okay. And speaking of National Train Day, that's why I invited you on. It's coming up, isn't it?
It's next Saturday down at the train station in Toledo. Free parking, free entrance, all kinds of fun things. There's even going to be some talking groups so that you can learn about what's happening in passenger rail around the country. This will be in the TARPS, main floor of the TARPS building. And there's going to be food trucks for anybody that gets hungry. There's going to be a history tour trolley. So, and there's speeders, and there's a train, kids train around the circle. So there's going to be a lot of stuff there at Train Day.
Okay, and where exactly is the Toledo train station for those that don't know?
Well, it's on the southeast side of downtown, along the river. On Emerald Street is where the actual station is, but just off of Broadway, just by the high-level bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been there many times. It's it's an interesting station. It has capacity for so many more trains than actually go there. I mean, there's all kinds of platforms. We could be getting like 20 or 30 trains a day out of there, right?
Well, when it was built in 1950, there were 50 passenger rail trains a day coming through the station.
Wow. That's kind of what we need again, I think. So,
Yeah,
and so that, go ahead.
I believe so too. I mean, that's one reason why I'm, so adamant about advocating for passenger rail.
Right. And, of course, the reason I love trains so much is the fact that it's such a better environmental choice in terms of transporting people, in terms of things like greenhouse gases. So what are some of the ways that a train is superior to, let's say, just everybody driving their own car?
Well, people are really concerned about gas prices right now. And people do not realize how much our country actually subsidizes the fossil fuel industry just so we can have cheap gasoline. Between everything that is done, we subsidize over $800 billion a year just so that we can have cheap gasoline in this country. And if you thought, you think it's, costly to have a $25 billion bill for passenger rail, think of what you're spending for just to have your gasoline be cheap. So that's one thing. The other thing is that cars are one of the top 4 polluters in the world, with 25% of all noxious gases in the U.S. Trains, even though they are, have diesel fuel, a lot of them, they are, so much better than cars. Hang on one second here. Passengers account for only about a little less than 2% all of the diesel fuel consumed in this country.
Wow. So using only 2% of the fuel, diesel trains can move tons and tons and tons of freight and people.
Compared to what's being used in this country, yes. I mean, they share over 85% of the, what the market share is done through rail, but they only cost about 2% of our fuel consumption. So, it's extremely efficient compared to anything else. And the land use per passenger kilometer for rail is 3.5 times lower than for cars. So, you think about that, that's, if you're going to build a rail, you're going to use much less land than if you use cars. That people talk about, well, we need more lanes. Well, think about around Houston where they have a 26-line highway, knowing that it costs more each year to maintain a mile of road than it does a mile of rail. That is extremely expensive to have 26 lanes.
Yeah, and I think that all the studies show that when you build more lanes, more cars start using them. And, the idea that you can get rid of congestion by making more and more lanes has actually been proven wrong every time because, the more lanes there are, the more people ride their cars because usually there's less of the good public transportation because that's all the investment went into the auto infrastructure and all the things like trains and buses and subways got neglected.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's so much, and the thing of it is that riding a passenger train is 7 times safer than riding an automobile. So, there's so many positives for riding passenger rail versus a car.
Yeah. Now, last time we had you on, it was about a year ago, and we were, that was just after Biden passed his Build Back Better, and it had billions in there for improving rail traffic. Has that turned into anything yet? Has there been any result of any of that yet? Or is there anything on the horizon about that Build Back Better money?
Well, the good thing about the Build Back Better money, people don't realize this. They hear $60 billion and they think that $60 billion is just being poured into passenger rail. They don't realize that it is anywhere between 11 to 13 billion over 5 years. It isn't 60 billion in 1 year. Whereas last year, I think the country put in 185 billion into building roads. So, just think about that.
185 billion in 1 year into roads and 65 billion over 5 years for rail. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little discrepancy there.
Yeah.
Anyways, so over that, of that, I think it's 11 billion this year that they're putting out there to be bid on. Nothing has come out yet because Amtrak has not decided who's going to get the money. And that decision is going to come later this month. And all the states, if they want to improve passenger rail, have to tell Amtrak, well, this is what we're going to do to increase passenger rail in our state. And I believe you're in Bowling Green right now, part of Ohio. K-State sent back over $600 million to build the 3C corridor. And we haven't been able to recover that since. So,
right, I remember that the 3C corridor that would have been a line that would have connected Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland by rail, right? Mm-hmm.
Right, and it would have produced 4 or 5 new train stations, which are anytime you have passenger rail going through a place and stop at a station, you have placemaking. In other words, you have other businesses that flock to it, such as restaurants, hotels, and stuff like that. And in 2013, Norfolk Southern did a study, and they said that any place that they serve, in their freight rail, that has a viable passenger rail station, those towns get $5 billion more than those that don't.
$5 billion with a B. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of economic activity.
Right, and that's the thing. That's one of the main positives about having passenger rail. It really allows people to flock to the region and participate in transportation.
Right.
We already talked about the savings and efficiency of fuel and stuff. It's just incredible. I can't see why we want to go backwards. But you think about it, is that maintaining high-speed lines is only about 60% of maintaining 2 lanes of highway per year. Okay, and in most roads, the roads have to be replaced or refurbished every 6 to 7 years at the cost of close to $6 million per mile. So that's for the roads, and at trains you can build a high-speed rail line, one line, for about $8 million per mile, and two for $12 million per mile. Roads, it costs between 15 and 26 for 1 mile of 2-lane highway. So it's very more efficient in the production of development of cement, putting down the steel and everything. It's much cheaper to do rail than it is to do roads.
Right. Okay. So now you mentioned that Amtrak's going to be making some decisions this month, but we have a deadline coming up here in Ohio, don't we? In terms of this, getting some of this Build Back Better money.
Right.
What is that deadline?
I haven't been given a date, but it's within the next 2 weeks, I believe.
So the state of Ohio, in other words, Governor DeWine, needs to get on the ball. He's got 2 weeks to basically, to ask for some of this money, or Ohio's going to get left behind again.
Yes, and as I wrote to them, I said both Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Jersey are just licking their lips, waiting for Ohio not to step up. Yeah. So essentially, if we don't claim Ohio's share of this money, the other states are going to get it. Next years.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's hope he does step up. And one thing I just heard about is that Michigan is poised to create a line from Detroit through Ann Arbor up to Traverse City.
Yes, they've been working on that for 5 years, and they were hoping last year or the year before to start a trial on the old tracks that go up to Traverse City, but because of COVID, that got put back for 2 years. And I'm going to be getting an update in a couple of weeks on where they are at this point. But when I saw the report and actually read the report on what's happening between Ann Arbor and Traverse City, it is a fantastic movement of people that can really reduce the need for adding lanes of highway to Traverse City.
Yeah, because I drove up to northern Michigan last week, and it strikes me every time, but it really struck me again that what you've got are people who are driving their cars like 4 hours in order to escape cars. Because that's why you go up to Michigan, because it's quiet, there isn't all this traffic, but you're driving your car to get there, which means you're bringing that traffic with you as you're trying to escape it. So to be able to just hop on a train at Ann Arbor and just ride a train through the forest up to the nice quiet northern peninsula or northern part of the state, that would be wonderful.
Yep, it would.
Yeah.
And last summer, my wife and I drove up to Sleeping Bear Dunes. And it was a 6-hour drive. So it's not something that you look forward to. Now, if you had high-speed rail up there, you could do it in a couple hours, or 3 hours at the most, not 6, and you wouldn't be exhausted by the time you get there. Traverse City figured out that more and more visitors are going to come to Traverse City in over the next 20 years. Right now, they do not have sufficient hotels, nor do they have sufficient roads to accompany almost a 20% increase in visitors in the summer. So that's the reason why they are so high on high-speed rail.
All right. Well, Tim, thanks so much for talking to us about it. Hopefully, if we have you on in about a year again, what we'll be talking about is how great the new, Ohio trade stations are.
Well, okay. I really appreciate you talking to me, and I just want to say one more time, next Saturday is train day, 9:30 to 4, free to everybody down at the train station in Toledo.
All right. Thanks so much, Tim.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. That was Tim Porter with National Train Day. Okay. Now we get to hear from our incredible patrons and sponsors. For a Green Future is brought to you by the Wood County Park District. The Wood County Park District is a natural resources conservation agency. They protect natural spaces, maintain quality green spaces, provide engaging programming, and they teach people to love and respect nature. They restore wildlife habitats, and they lead people on outdoor adventures. Wood County Parks protects natural spaces in Wood County for all to enjoy, from 8 a.m. to 30 minutes past sunset every day of the year. And there's a bunch of ways to get a hold of them, see what they're doing. One is to call at 419-353-1897. That's 419-353-1897. Another is to go to their website, which is wcparks.org. That's very simply wcparks.org. They also have a nifty app that you can put on your phone or other device. You go to any app store and search for WC Parks. It's a free app, and you can see their things they've got lined up and events that they're having. And, of course, they're on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the Wood County Park District. And For a Green Future is also brought to you by our incredible, foresightful, wonderful patrons. And these are people who've gone to patreon.com, and they looked for a Green Future. Up popped our nifty Patreon page. They scrolled through and picked a level of membership that met their budget, and they signed up, and every month a little bit painlessly comes out of their checking accounts, comes over to us, and that's how we can keep this show on the air. So thank you very much to our patrons. Okay, Rebecca, now it's time to talk purple here.
There we go.
All right, so we're going to talk about violets.
Yeah, well, it's Mother's Day, so flowers. And also, I've heard a number of people on Facebook randomly remarking that they're seeing a lot of violets in various neighborhoods. And they're all over my block, and they weren't there last year. Really, I don't remember any violets at all. So, yeah, I thought I'd look into that a little. Violets are really technically anything in the genus Viola, which is in the family of Violaceae, however you say that. There's between 525 and 600 species of violets. Why don't they know more specifically? Is the 75 species in dispute in some ways?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery. Mostly they grow in temperate zones, but also Hawaii, the Andes, and Australasia, which is Australia, New Zealand, and some islands around those parts. They grow as perennials, annuals, or shrubs. Violets species with larger flowers and which are more multicolored blossoms are usually classified as pansies. They're usually called pansies. And they come in, a lot of species are acaulescent.
Okay.
I think it's acaulescent, but I might have wrote it down wrong, which means that they don't really have much of a visible stem. It just looks like the blossom is coming right out of the ground.
Okay.
As opposed to caulescent.
I have noticed that because, I thought, that'd be nice to pick some of those, and then, you try to pick the flower and all you get are petals.
It's awfully challenging, yeah. Yeah, the type species that, you look at that and you think, a violet is Viola odorata. That's what we think of as violet. It's native to Europe and Asia. It's a species of least concern. Scented blossoms, dark violet or white in color usually. Likes to grow on the edges of forests or clearings and shaded lawns. So it's like Queen Anne's lace, and that, and what do you call it, chicory. I think some of those are technically invasive, but they like to grow in disturbed areas where nothing else really wants to grow anyway, so nobody minds all that much. Well, my own uncle used to say that rats and humans like disturbed, damaged ecological areas a lot. That's where we thrive. So. Well,
I'm sorry to hear it's an invasive species, and I've never checked into it because I like violets so much. I was always afraid of discovering that, yes, it's invasive. So,
But I don't think it's very harmful, It's a little invasive, but it's not that harmful.
Well, it's certainly pretty, yeah.
They had a huge surge of popularity in the late Victorian, which is why they're still used for perfume a lot. They're used in syrup. The French people in particular are famous for making a violet syrup which English people like to put in scones and marshmallows. I would like a violet-flavored marshmallow. I would like to have one of those. The leaves are also edible. Medicinally, it's been used for respiratory problems, insomnia, and skin disorders, although that's not scientifically proven. And apparently in ancient Greece, they were a symbol of Athens, and also they were associated with Aphrodite, Persephone, and Priapus. I'm not explaining Priapus to you. Look him up.
Okay.
If you're feeling strong one day, look him up. He's a naughty, naughty boy. So yeah, the ancient Greeks thought of it as sort of a racy flower and not all nice and primly Victorian. The one thing I discovered, they do like shaded areas. So probably the reason there's a whole bunch of them is that if we had sort of a cloudy, overcast spring, it seems to me like maybe we have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been very cloudy and wetter than usual, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why there are more violets, probably. They like that.
Oh.
They're into that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So now before we get on to our ecological news segment, I just want to say Jim has tested the phone line, and it should work. So go ahead and try to call in if you want at 877-909-1007. I'm looking for opinions on if I should, give in and go ahead and mow my lawn, or if I should just keep those violets growing until June 1st. So
they're magical and fairies like them.
Oh, that too. I
remain convinced of this.
All right. So you can call 877-909-1007 or text 419-973-5841. Okay, now on to ecological news. And this first story is a rare shout out, rare praise for a Republican governor.
All right.
And in fact, it's a rare praise for Florida's governor, Ron Desantis.
Old Ronnie did something right?
It's amazing, but he did.
Wow.
So, and, you have to give credit.
Who is he and what has he done with the real Ron DeSantis?
That is a question. They should have checked the closets in the governor's mansion. Yeah. But what's happened is I've talked before about the battle we're having down in Bowling Green, where they've penalized rooftop solar panels $4 per month per installed kilowatt, and they cut the amount that they paid for the solar electricity in half. So now solar installations will never pay for themselves. It's a guaranteed loss of money, and some states, some utility companies in different states looked at those policies and were like, that's genius, and tried to force states to do the same exact thing.
Think genius like in a James Bond movie.
Yeah, like evil genius.
That kind of genius.
Yeah. That's the kind most utilities like, is the evil genius. Yeah. So both California and Florida had these things pending, and Florida, it was very interesting because the 84% of Floridians opposed this, because they're like, hey, if I want to put solar panels on my house, I shouldn't be penalized for it, and I should have a reasonable expectation of making my money back,
Nobody's business if you do.
Right. And so that support cut across all political lines, and like I say, 84% opposed the new things, but Florida Public and Light mounted this incredible PR campaign that actually wasn't aimed at the people of Florida. It was just specifically aimed at legislators. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, yeah, okay, can you be a little more obvious about...
So this means even Florida man recognizes this as a terrible, terrible idea.
Right.
The Florida man phenomenon, right?
Even Florida man wants solar panels.
Yeah.
And so the legislator passed it.
And his significant other, Ohio woman, apparently. That I've heard some stuff about, yeah.
Right. The legislature passed it, and incredibly, Governor Ron DeSantis vetoed it on April 27th. It was HB 741, and, he said this is an unfair burden on people who want solar panels, and, there are rumors that he wants to run for president in 2024. And if you have the political savvy to go along with 84% of the electorate he might just have a chance. So kudos to Governor Desantis in Florida. Gotta give him credit for.
Go Ronnie.
Yeah, he went against Florida Power and Light. So it's like, okay, that could be a sign that things are shifting. On to our next story, another sign that some things are definitely shifting, no question about it. India is in the middle of an incredible heat wave. In fact, there's a photo going around on the internet that's been substantiated by Snopes and other fact checkers that I checked. Last week, India had surface temperatures of 143 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my God.
Right. Now that is surface temperature, so that's the temperature of the ground. It's not air temperature, but it's still incredibly hot. And
it's only May.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people there who can't even afford air conditioning.
12% of people in India have air conditioning. So 88% do not have any air conditioning. And a lot of people in India go barefoot. So 143 degree ground when you're barefoot is pretty serious. And it's not like the air temperature was cool. The air temperature was 50 degrees centigrade or 122 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my God.
And for a good chunk of the time of each day that was the situation in India, the wet bulb temperature exceeded that of human endurance. Wet bulb temperature is a temperature where you take your thermometer and you cover it in wet cloth and you blow air over it. And what this does is it shows you how much a body could be cooled by sweating. And so if that wet bulb temperature gets above 86, 88 degrees, humans can no longer cool themselves by sweating. Even if there's a breeze, it's a hot breeze. And so, your body temperature continues to get hotter because, we have this, we're constantly generating at 98.6. But if we can't cool our bodies, then we die. And this is true whether or not you're young and fit or whether you're old and out of shape. And so if the wet bulb temperature is above like 95 degrees for an extended period of time, you're going to get lots and lots of people dying. Now, the official government number that died in the last heat wave was 25, which I find absolutely ridiculous. I do not believe the Indian government's claim that only 25 people died in that heat wave. And my belief that they're lying is actually supported by their COVID reporting, which the World Health Organization has looked at the numbers that India has said died from COVID and has said that those numbers are underreported by at least a factor of 8. So they're lying on the COVID deaths. I believe they're lying on these heat-related deaths. And it's just ironic that Modi, the dictator of India, is turning to Russian fossil fuels because all these fossil fuels that the West said we're going to stop buying coal, we're going to stop buying Russian oil to put economic pressure on Russia. India just stepped up and said, "Oh, we'll buy it."
Oh, brother.
Yeah, because they're getting it at an incredible discount, and they're like, "This is great, really cheap." So it's just ironic that India is buying their fossil fuels at an incredible rate, the same fossil fuels that are heating up the country and actually threatening this existence of India, because temperatures like these and the record temperature, just air temperature, was 120.2, and that was in Pakistan actually on last Wednesday. And temperatures like these will eventually make the subcontinent of India, large chunks of it, uninhabitable, because you cannot literally, if you can't survive.
And a lot of people are inhabiting it currently, so where
like
are they going to go?
Yeah, over 1 billion people in India. So.
The Himalayas, Afghanistan, how do you get out of India fast?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's a big news that isn't really getting that much play in Western media, but it's, I think, because lots and lots of people aren't dying, and But the thing is, they could be. But if you're in one of these dictator type governments that has complete control of the media, we're not going to get that information. So we have to kind of deduce things, like with this satellite picture that showed the ground temperature being 143 degrees. That's hard data. We know that ground temperature was that hard. And now we can kind of deduce that 25 deaths is kind of ridiculously low. So
better get some asbestos shoes.
Yeah. All right, on to our next story. Brazil in April had record high deforestation going. It was in the month of April, 1,000 square kilometers, which is equal to 400 square miles, was deforested in the 1 month. And the reason it was significant that happened in April is because normally April is the wet season in the rainforest. So normally April is literally, it's too wet to bring logging equipment into the forest. And so usually the logging slows down. So the fact that they hit a record, and in fact they also hit records in January and February, the fact that they're physically able to log record amounts of forest means that the wet season in the rainforest is not as wet as it should be, because it should be too muddy, it should be too rainy for them to even get in there, and instead they're able to do record amounts of logging. So it's not looking good for the rainforest, and Brazil's president Bolsonaro has repeatedly stated that he's going to, he wants just more and more logging, and he's doing things like he's riding around with motorcycle gangs. That's his campaign method. And,
alrighty.
yeah, I don't know what that has to do with like protecting your country from exploitation, but yeah, so that's some more bad news, unfortunately, going through in Brazil. All right, so here we are, 10:50. We have a good 10 minutes left to talk. So once again, if you try to call in at 877-909-1007 or text us at 419-973-5841, I'd really like to ask somebody to try to call in, because now I really want to know, does this phone work? Could you actually call in? So give us a call. So Rebecca, you had a beautiful day yesterday, got another beautiful day today.
Yes.
What sort of things do you have in mind for the day?
Oh, well, we thought we would go to the big pro-choice rally out by UT today.
Oh. Okay, well, that's a nice outdoor activity.
Yes.
Like-minded people. Yeah, maybe I'll join you there. We'll see.
There you go.
But I understand you were sitting on your porch the other day and you had a little sort of wildlife encounter.
We saw some deer already. They're really early in the season. It was exciting. We get excited about deer. There's been a lot of woodpeckers this year too. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't notice them last year. You know, that little sort of tick, 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 tick thing they do in the background. It's easy to miss.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't. My roommate didn't know what it was.
Oh.
I was like, "Don't you hear the woodpeckers?" And she's like, "No." And I'm like, "You hear that?"
Yeah.
That's a woodpecker. That's what they sound like.
I took a nice walk on the side cut on the towpath trail down there. Started at the very beginning in Mow May, where they've got the lock from the old canal, and
right.
And the lock was full of water. Actually, the Mow May is the highest I've ever seen it, not within the spring thaw, when all the ice backs up and everything. This is literally just water. It's the highest level I've seen for just water in the river, and so the if you had a canal boat, you could have gone from that lock directly into the Mow May yesterday. And we were walking along, and we saw some woodpeckers, and we saw a birder. I guess this is the maximum birding time in like the next week or two is like the best birding time in Northwest Ohio, and we have some of the best birding in the country and in the world. So.
Come on out to Mow May Bay in Collin Park.
Yeah. So, it looks like we got a caller, and so we'll put them on the line just as soon as possible. But we also saw deer on the towpath trail, and I saw a rose-breasted grosbeak, and it was nice. Okay, caller, go ahead. Hi.
Oh, well, this is a radio check. No, I'm kidding.
Well, thanks.
You got the
Appreciate it.
phone lines working. About the governor, I was interested in your comments about the governor and the credits. I think that's important, but I don't think we should also lose sight about how maybe self-serving it might be, in that he might not have the environment in his forefront of his mind for his actions. But
yeah, I think it was a blatant political move, but it still, he had to decide that politically he would do better going against Florida Public and Light with all its, billions of dollars in its war chest for campaigns.
Right.
He decided to make that decision. So, but you're right.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he did this out of the goodness of his heart, but I still think we still have to give him credit for doing it, because the governor of California is in a similar situation where he could reject right now, today, he could say, I am not going to give the California utilities this solar penalty. I'm not going to go along with it. And there's a huge political outcry in California also. But he's the Democrat, and he hasn't done it. So, and if he doesn't do it, we're going to have to pan him, even though even though maybe his heart is gooder than DeSantis's. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. In the end, what matters are your actions. I actually don't care about motivation. I don't care why a politician does something or doesn't do something. All I care about is what they actually do or don't do. And in this case, DeSantis did the right thing, and the Democrat governor of California has not yet done the right thing. So, I
get that.
Yeah.
But if you say that they're gonna, if they listen to the will of the people, or if they feel the breeze blowing and they follow that direction, I think the majority of Americans are concerned about the environment, but I don't think the majority of Americans are concerned enough about the environment to weigh that over what's the prevailing about, it's we have this inflation, it always takes over. The pocketbook always takes over regardless. Americans are so addicted to money that, that's what always ends up making the decision. That's my opinion anyway. That's that part of it.
It's definitely a valid opinion, but I would argue that the trend is actually changing. As more and more people lose their homes to storms or have family members that get flooded out, and as these consequences of global warming keep getting stronger and stronger, I think that was much more true back in like the 80s and 90s than it is now. I think you have more people now today that are willing to put the climate first, and we'll see. But before you go, I want to ask, what's your opinion on the violets? Should I mow my lawn, or should I?
Well,
or should I wait?
have a lot of them, and what I do is I just set my mower high enough so it goes over them.
Oh, okay. Nice compromise there. All right. Well,
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Thanks for the radio check. All right. Have a good day. Well, all right. Well, that's a great call, and that opens our line, which is functional. So I don't know what our problem with our guest was, but and of course we still have our text machine here at 419-973-5841. Text anytime. All right. Well, Rebecca, I kind of want to just revisit really quick our guest from last week, because that has a direct effect on all this. Is that we're learning
the environmental was that the environmental guy
he's
with the BTSU?
He's from Latvia, and he lives in Latvia.
Oh, the nuclear guy,
right? Who said that even the small levels of radiation have a tremendous impact in terms of increasing the numbers of cancer. And one thing this show kind of hinted at is that 3 Mile Island kind of proved this. The rates that they actually observed were so much higher than the rates that were predicted with the linear no threshold model that it's looking more and more like our guest last week is dead on. So, all right. Well, I guess we're reaching the end of the show, and I just want to say thanks to everybody for listening, and thanks to our caller, and thanks to our guest. And thanks to
Happy Mother's Day to everyone. May this planet be a really wonderful place for women and for families.
yes, Happy Mother's Day, everybody, and maybe pick them some violets and
Very carefully because they don't have much of a stem.
right. And have a good day.
Bye-bye.
I don't want no oil, a spoil in my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things, creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done.